Before dawn, Seth wakes to another empty life. No friends, no family, just the lonely dogs at the animal control centre. After feeding them all, he slips into Lexi's kennel for a quick cuddle. His only moment of comfort. One evening, riding the bus home, he spots Holly. He greets her, but she has no idea who he is, so he explains they briefly overlapped in high school. He was a year older and only knew her because she was popular. He notices her scribbling in a notebook and teases that she must be a writer. She corrects him, saying she waitresses for a living and only writes for fun. Seth blurts out a lame joke, the mood turns stiff, and before he can even ask for her number, she steps off the bus. That night, reeling from Lexi's imminent euthanasia, Seth watches helplessly as the vet gives her the fatal injection. He carries her lifeless body off to the crematory the next morning and removes her name tag from her cage. Back at work, Seth hears a strange sound behind a locked door in a restricted area, but finds nothing when he checks. Meanwhile, he's been obsessively stalking Holly online, cataloguing every photo, noting every detail, and eventually discovering the diner where she works. The next day, he returns to the diner. Again, she doesn't recognise him. He compliments her hair, she stays strictly on task. He tries to ask her out. She says she already has a boyfriend. He insists she doesn't, which horrifies her, and she leaves him the check on the table. That night, Holly senses someone trailing her home and tells her roommate Claire, who dismisses her fears. Then her ex, Eric, drunkenly calls. She refuses his apology. Claire pressures her to forgive Eric, but Holly refuses and drowns her frustration in more drinks. The next morning at the diner, Holly finds a massive bouquet with a Be Mine card. She tracks it back to Eric's bar, only to learn Eric didn't send it. Seth, lurking in the shadows, admits he sent the flowers. Holly finally recalls him and, horrified, realises he's been tailing her. Desperate, Seth swears he's not dangerous, that he only wants to talk. Holly tries to escape, but he blocks her path until Eric leaps over the counter and knocks Seth down. Even as blood pools on the floor, Seth can't stop giggling, so Eric boots him out. Seth, still laughing, notices Holly's journal has fallen and pockets it. At home, Seth opens her notebook and reads every entry, feeling closer to her sorrow and anger. The following day, he slips into the shelter's hidden basement through a hatch and finds an unused room with power. Over the next few days, he orders supplies, builds a sturdy cage there, and steals sedative from the shelter's infirmary. He tries the sedatives on himself to see how they work. Late one night, Holly senses someone behind her. She waves pepper spray at a homeless man by mistake and runs off, while Seth slips away unseen. Moments later, he breaks into her apartment, injects her with the sedative, and bundles her inside a delivery box. The security guard tried to ask what was in the box. Seth told the guard that was his boss's order, so the guard let Seth sign the delivery book. Seth was able to take her to the secret room. She wakes trapped behind bars as the shelter dogs bark beyond her cage. She continues to shout for help, but only dogs could hear her scream. The security guard upstairs hears some noises but think it's the dogs being dogs. The next morning, Seth brings a pan for her to ease herself, but she screams and insults Seth. Seth tells her to stop shouting or she will face it rough, but she refuses. Then Seth tells her she's lost the privilege of food until she behaves. Holly screams, taunts him, even kills a rat that ventures too close. He just shrugs and leaves. Over the next weeks, Seth visits sporadically, feeding her and lecturing her on boundaries, convinced that only he can rescue the real Holly she's buried beneath her public mask. One day, Seth is caught by Net trying to snoop around, but Net did not take it serious, so Seth walked out. The next morning, Seth proudly reveals he's read her entire journal. Seth pieces together Holly's past. Claire was her roommate and fiancé's lover. In a fit of rage, Holly drove, erratically crashed and fatally stabbed Claire, though the police ruled it an accident. In the present, Holly claims her journal entries about murder are fiction. Seth insists she's killed strangers in gruesome ways, and he's here to save her. She agrees to be saved, but it's a lie. One day, Seth sneaks down to the hidden room as usual. Only this time, Nate finds the open hatch and follows him. At the bottom, Nate sees Holly trapped in the cage and starts pounding on the bars, yelling for Seth to let her out. Surprisingly, Holly makes a gesture, telling Seth to attack. Then she keeps Nate distracted, while Seth sneaks behind and hits Nate in the head. Seth slips up behind Nate and brings a heavy wrench down on his head. As Nate staggers, Holly presses her face against the bars, eyes wide, and actually smiles, clearly thrilled by the violence. Encouraged by her silent cheers, Seth pulls out a hunting knife and, with cold precision, stabs Nate again and again until he falls silent. Holly watches, leaning in, as if she's at the front row of a horror show. After it's over, Seth hauls Nate's body into the old crematory. He uses the vet's tools to remove Nate's teeth, fingerprints, and nails, then butchers the corpse, feeding scraps to the dogs and burning the rest in the furnace. Once the fire's out, he cleans every drop of blood from his hands and from the room, closing the hatch behind him as though nothing ever happened. After taking a shower, Seth calmly picks up his phone and dials his boss. He tells her Nate went out on an errand early that morning and simply never returned. His voice is steady as he confirms signing out everything as usual. No hint of panic, no sign of guilt. Back at the shelter, Seth slips into the office and starts his day. But before long, a detective arrives, asking questions about Nate's disappearance. He rifles through Nate's things, pokes holes in Seth's story, and notes that Seth already speaks of Nate in the past tense. Seth keeps his expression blank, insisting he last saw Nate alive when he left for work. The detective thanks him and leaves, warning that they'll be in touch if they find anything new. Meanwhile, Holly remains locked in the hidden room. After days of silence, she finally agrees to speak, on one horrifying condition. Seth must prove his love by giving her something of himself. He hesitates, but his obsession wins out. With trembling hands, he slices off and hands over his own finger as proof. Holly leans forward as if to take the bloodied finger, but at the last second she snatches the knife instead. Pressing the blade to her own wrist, she snarls that she'll kill herself if he doesn't unlock the cage. Terrified, Seth fumbles for the lock and throws the bolt. The door swings open and Holly steps out, still holding the knife. She shoves him hard against the wall, pinning his arms at his sides. Her face is close to his, and she presses her lips to his in a fierce, desperate kiss. As Seth freezes, stunned, Holly pulls back just enough, then slashes the knife across his throat. Blood blossoms at the cut as he reels backward, hands clutching his neck, while Holly stands over him, eyes cold and triumphant, before turning and slipping into the darkness. In the final scene, Holly is back with her ex, preparing her novel for publication, while Seth lies gagged and bound in a distant warehouse. His one-sided rescue has become his own prison, a grim testament to how far obsession can go.